In the heart of a bustling, sun-soaked market, a mother's desperate choice sends ripples through time. She abandons her infant son, blind from a rare condition, into a world that is unforgiving and full of whispers. Years later, shadows of regret and hope collide as she returns to face the son she left behind, a boy who, despite darkness, has blossomed into a symbol of resilience, courage, and the unbreakable bond of love. This is a tale woven with raw emotion, cultural depth, and the enduring question, can forgiveness bridge a chasm carved by fear and abandonment? Dive deep into this gripping narrative and join the journey of Fatima and Kamil, where every moment pulses with tension, every character carries a story, and every heartbeat echoes the power of redemption. Don't miss out on more extraordinary stories like this in the Pablo Multiverse, a metaverse of stories, folk tales, and tales by noonlight that will transport your imagination and stir your soul. Subscribe now to Pablo Multiverse and be the first to enter worlds where stories live and breathe. Share your thoughts and feelings about Fatima and Kamil's journey in the comments. Your voice makes this story alive and vibrant. Step into the multiverse of tales. Let's explore together. Chapter 1. The Abandonment. The sun had barely risen over the small town of Al-Hajjah, but the market was already alive with the sounds, smells, and sights of a world in motion. Narrow alleyways bustled with merchants shouting prices, the clinking of brass pots, and the heavy scent of spices mingled with earth and sweat. Children darted between stalls, while women in vibrant hijabs bartered over brightly woven fabrics. Fatima wrapped her thin shawl tighter around her shoulders, her face shadowed beneath her worn veil. She moved quietly toward the far end of the market, her footsteps careful and measured despite the chaos surrounding her. Closer now, cradled awkwardly in her arms, was Kamil, her infant son, his fragile body swaddled in a patchwork of coarse cloth. His eyelids were shut tightly against the steaming light of the sun, a small scrunch of his brow betraying discomfort not from hunger or cold, but from deeper pain. Kamil's condition was rare, a congenital ailment that rendered his eyes unresponsive to light and twisted in form. The doctors called it Labor's congenital amaurosis, a blindness so complete and early that there was no hope of sight. But it was more than blindness. His eyes showed delicate patches of white, almost translucent, and he winced if the smallest gleam touched them. Fatima knelt quietly next to the pile of baskets beneath a fig tree, her heart pounding painfully inside her chest. Around her, the market continued its symphony of life, seemingly immune to the hurricane within her mind. "A child with eyes like his will never be seen as normal," she whispered, the words breaking like fragile glass. "Not here, not in this town where every eye watches, judges." Her hands shook as she lowered Kamil gently onto the woven mat she had spread out. He stirred but made no sound. Fatima reached inside her tattered bag, pulling out a small cloth soaked with water, dabbing gently at the delicate patches on his eyelids, trying to soothe the stinging. "She has no faith in you," whispered a harsh voice from behind her. Fatima froze. Slowly, she turned to see Miriam, an older woman with silver-streaked hair and sharp eyes, standing just a few feet away. The market's more hardened and judgmental matron, Miriam was known for her stern beliefs about fate and family honor. "You should have left him at the hospital," Miriam said flatly, nodding toward the ragged bundle. "Hey, the town will only turn its back." Fatima's lips pressed into a thin line. "He is my son," she said quietly, but Miriam's gaze cut through her like ice. "Then why bring him to the market to be a burden to all of us? You cannot protect him here. No one will." The words pierced Fatima's chest with a sharp, unrelenting ache. She closed her eyes and shook her head. For years, she had held on to hope against hope, visiting doctors, trading what little money the family had for treatments, enduring the whispers and stares of neighbors. But now, with her husband long dead and the winter quickly approaching, she felt the walls closing in. "Fatima," Miriam said softly now, stepping closer. "There are those who will care for him if you cannot. They will offer shelter, food, kindness." Fatima opened her eyes to see a flicker of something in Miriam's face. Not cruelty, but a severe kind of pity. I don't know," Fatima murmured, rocking Kamil lightly. "I'm afraid." "Afraid? Of what?" Miriam's voice was gentler, almost coaxing. "That someone will hurt him. Always look away, as the whole world has." Suddenly, from the shadow behind the fig tree, a fresh voice called out, soft but clear. Maybe I can help." Fatima looked up to see a woman emerge, her hands stained with henna and her apron dusted with flour. Rania, the stall owner who sold bread and dates, was known across Al-Hajj for her kindness. Her eyes, warm and deep, held no judgment. "Your son is strong," Rania said, kneeling beside Fatima. "And this market, it may yet be his home for now." Fatima's throat tightened. She looked down at Kamil, still too young to understand the storm swirling around him, and wondered if this moment was the beginning of salvation or the irrevocable moment of a different kind of abandonment. "Will you stay with him?" Fatima whispered, voice barely audible. Rania nodded. "I will." The sun climbed higher, spreading its fierce light across the stalls and alleys. Market-goers, unaware of the quiet decision being made under the shade of the fig tree, continued their daily routines. Fatima's heart wrenched as she placed Kamil amid the soft cushions Rania had brought and took a step back. "Remember," she said, voice cracking in spite of herself, "he cannot see. His eyes are delicate. Don't let the sunlight touch him." Rania smiled gently. "We will watch over him." Fatima looked around, as if seeking a sign or a second chance. Tays brimmed, hot and unforgiving. I have to go," she said, her voice breaking. "No shame in trying," Rania said firmly, standing beside her. Fatima took a deep breath and turned away from the market, away from her son, away from the life she once imagined but could no longer bear. Behind her, Kamil lay still, the small scarred eyes closed against the brightness, a world of silence around him. The market's pulse beat on, relentless and unyielding. Fatima's feet moved swiftly away from the fig tree, but her mind was caught in a whirlwind of doubt and despair. Each step carried the weight of 1,000 questions. Had she done the right thing? Was she condemning Kamil, her son, to a cruel fate? As she turned a corner, the noise dimmed slightly, replaced by the rhythmic clatter of water from a communal well, the fragrance of freshly ground cardamom, and the distant call of muezzin from the old mosque. Fatima pulled the edge of a veil over her face, hiding the tears that threatened to spill down her cheeks. Memories invaded her mind unbidden. The first time she had held Kamil, his tiny fingers curling around hers as if seeking a lifeline. The painstaking visits to the healer's hut outside town, where whispered rumors spoke of miracle cures but yielded none. The mounting suspicion and scorn of neighbors who whispered that she'd been cursed, or worse, punished by God for reasons they couldn't see. Her husband, Khalid, had been a quiet man from the mountain villages who had died before Kamil was born. Fatima had borne the responsibilities of the household alone, her youth swallowed by hardship. She stopped in a narrow alley behind a humble abaya store, her breath catching. The weight on her chest eased for only a moment before the reality rushed back. She was alone. No one would comfort her. And somewhere, hidden beneath the rough canvases and weather baskets, her son waited. Meanwhile, beneath the fig tree, Rania settled Kamil into a cradle fashioned from a discarded wooden crate. The shade protected him from the unforgiving sun, but the noises of the market, children laughing, spices clinking, voices shouting, were a sensory assault to the fragile infant. Rania brushed a soft hand across Kamil's forehead, eyes clouded with concern and determination. She was a widow herself, having lost her husband to illness some years before, and now ran the bakery store to support her aging parents. "Little one, you're safe here," she whispered. "I'll keep you close." A few feet away, other vendors watched quietly, some with compassion, others with wary judgment. Old Nazir, the fruit seller with leathery hands and a gravel voice, approached cautiously. "You're fixing to take on a heavy burden, Rania." She nodded. "He needs care. Who else will?" Murmurs rippled through the crowd. In Al-Hajj, tradition was king, and deviations, especially involving disabilities, bred suspicion. A young boy named Yasin, usually boisterous, stepped forward, his dark curls bouncing. Can a blind boy play with the others? Can he laugh and learn? Rania smiled and ruffled the boy's hair. Maybe not the same way, but he can laugh, and he will learn in his own way. Some market women crossed themselves or averted their eyes, whispering about the stigma and the shame. Hours later, fatigue draped over Fatima's shoulders as she returned to the small house she rented on the edge of town. The walls, thin and cracked, barely shielded her from the cold evening wind. She sat by the single oil lamp, clutching a faded photograph of Khalid, her husband. Her gaze drifted to the empty cradle where Kamil had once slept before illness took its full toll. Maybe I was wrong, she whispered to shadows. Sleep eluded her as she wrestled with her grief, guilt, and the faintest threads of hope intertwined with despair. The sun had dipped beneath the dusty horizon, casting a warm orange glow that softened the hard edges of old Hadge's market for the evening. Shadows stretched across the labyrinthine rows of stalls, and the once piercing cries of merchants negotiating prices fell into murmurs. Under the sturdy fig tree, Ronia hummed softly as she rocked the makeshift cradle back and forth, carrying Kamil's fragile form against her chest. She spoke to him as gently as if speaking to a blossom. "Kamil, little one, the world may be loud and rough, but you have a place here." Kamil stirred. Though blind, his other senses grew sharper with each passing day. He recognized Ronia's voice, the comforting scent of baked bread clinging to her clothes, and the subtle vibrations of the earth through her body. His skin was a map of pale, scar-like patches from the years of delicate care, his tiny hands always seeking to grasp what he could not see. Behind the fig tree, a circle of watchful eyes belonged to the market's denizens. Some were hard and skeptical, others softened by compassion, each bearing their own relationship to fate and disability. Old Nazif finally stepped closer, his voice low and gravelly. "How long will you care for him, Ronia? You can't carry the burden forever." Ronia met his gaze steadily. "As long as he needs me. Who else remembers the mercy lessons our elders spoke of?" Nazir sighed, the wrinkles around his eyes deepening. "The market teaches hard truths, Ronia, but maybe there is room for something more." Nearby, a cluster of women nodded quietly. Among them, Layla, a young mother whose own twins played nearby, approached with a basket of figs. "I saw the boy yesterday," Layla said, lifting her voice above the diminishing market clamor. "He smiled when your voice danced. Ronia, such a rare light." Ronia looked down at Kamil as he lifted one tiny hand in greeting, a shy movement, but profound in its meaning. "The light doesn't come from eyes alone," Ronia replied softly. "It's in the heart." Meanwhile, several miles away in the modest home perched near barren olive trees, Fatima sat hunched over a small brazier. The flickering flames cast dancing shadows on her face, revealing the strain etched deep around her worn eyes. She stared at the cracked wall, years of silence thickening the space between her and the memory of Kamil. Her fingers absent-mindedly twisted a threadbare piece of cloth. A knock at the door startled her. It was Miriam. "Fatima," Miriam began, voice measured but kind. "The town speaks of the boy. Your son." Fatima drew a ragged breath. "I do not know what to hope for. I left him in the market. I have not seen him since." Miriam's sharp gaze softened to an ache. "I think it is time you sought forgiveness, not just from others, but from yourself." Tears well but remained unshed. What use of forgiveness if it does not bring him back? "The years have yet to come," Miriam said, "and there's always time for healing. For you and for him." Back beneath the fig tree, the days wore on. Kamil's world was woven through sounds. The crash of the midday cart wheels, the laughter of children running barefoot, the whispered prayers of an old man lighting incense. He learned to walk, guided by Ronia's gentle hands and the encouragement of a market community slowly adjusting its heart. One afternoon, as golden light spilled across the cobblestones, a young boy named Yasin was crouched beside Kamil. "Tell me what I'm doing," Yasin said with a grin. "I'm pretending to be your eyes." Kamil's fingers danced in the air, exploring Yasin's face. "You smile with your hands," he said in a voice barely above a whisper. Yasin laughed. "I'm learning from you." For the first time, no one saw Kamil as a burden, but as a shining thread in their shared tapestry. Chapter 2. Echoes of the Past. Years had passed since Fatima's heart-wrenching decision beneath the fig tree, yet the shadows of that day clung tightly to every corner of her life. The town of Al-Hajjah had changed little. The market still bustled with the fragrant scent of cardamom and cumin, the calls of vendors still slicing through the morning air, and the intricate patterns of woven fabric still told stories threading through generations. But for Fatima, time had done little but intensify the ache within her soul. She sat alone in her modest dwelling, the dim light of dusk filtering through the cracked window panes. Her hands trembled as she folded a worn piece of cloth, a child's garment, faded and too small, that she had kept tucked away hidden from the world and herself. The room felt colder tonight, the silence heavier. Her husband-colored faded portrait rested on the small wooden table, a silent witness to the years of loneliness and regret that had followed his departure. Fatima's dark eyes, once filled with hope, were now clouded with a restless sorrow that no prayer or tear could alleviate. Outside, the faint rustle of children playing echoed from the narrow streets, their laughter a bitter reminder of the son she had left behind. Kamil, her blind, fragile boy with a rare condition that had consumed her fear and doubt so long ago, had become a living ghost in her heart. News had reached her through whispers and stolen glances, word that Kamil, now a boy of 8, walked the path of the market with quiet dignity, guided and loved fiercely by Ronia, the kind-hearted bread seller who had taken him in as her own. Neighbors spoke not only of his blindness but of his courage, his gentle smile, and the soft melodies he sometimes hummed that seemed to bridge worlds no one else could see. Fatima fought the tempest of shame and hope as she prepared to walk the crowded market again, this time not as a mother fleeing from sorrow, but as a woman desperate for redemption. The sun warmed the earth as she made her way slowly through the tangled streets. Faces turned, some with surprise, others with cold judgment, at the sight of the woman who had once been the whispered subject of scandal. The vibrant colors of the stalls seemed muted beneath the weight of her footsteps. She paused near the fig tree where she had left Kamil all those years ago. Tears filled her eyes as the memories flooded back, the softness of his downy hair, the fragile twitch of his eyelids, the promises she failed to keep. A familiar voice, gentle and unwavering, spoke from behind her. "Fatima!" She turned to see Ronia, her henna-stained hand steady, eyes kind yet guarded. Behind Ronia, a small boy stepped forward, Kamil, his face illuminated by a shy, tentative smile. Though his eyes were clouded and sightless, they gleamed with something far deeper, a resilient spirit etched by love and trials. "Mother." Kamil's voice was soft but clear, carrying a mixture of innocence, pain, and cautious hope. Words failed Fatima. She could only reach out trembling hands toward the son she had abandoned yet never stopped loving. In that moment, the years of silence began to unravel, and the long road to forgiveness, healing, and a renewed bond opened before them, uncertain yet filled with a fragile promise of light beyond darkness. Chapter 3. Threads of Connection. The first rays of morning spilled over the terracotta rooftops of Al-Hajjah, bathing the town in a golden glow as a call to prayer echoed softly across the cobblestone streets. The marketplace stirred slowly awake, the scent of fresh bread mingling with the earthy aroma of freshly turned soil from nearby fields, and the gentle clinking of copper pots as merchants prepared for the day. Kamil sat quietly at Ronia's stall, his small fingers tracing the delicate embroidery on the woven cloth that draped the vendor's table. Though his eyes could not perceive the vibrant colors, his other senses were sharp. The aromatic spice of sumac, the soft rustling of fabrics, the warm hum of voices, all stitched into his tapestry of understanding and belonging. Ronia observed him with a mother's tender watchfulness, her voice low and soothing as she responded to the questions of curious customers. The years had transformed her initial act of kindness into a fierce protective love for the blind boy who had come into her life as a fragile orphan but now moved with quiet confidence among the market's maze. This morning was different, however. Fatima's footsteps echoed faintly, unfamiliar amid the usual chorus. Kamil sensed something in the slight quickening of Ronia's breath and turned slowly toward the entrance where his mother had appeared days before, returning like a shadow from past. Fatima's face was etched with lines of regret and hope, her hands nervously clutching the scarf wrapped around her shoulders. Her gaze found Kamil's guarded smile, the fragile bridge between wound and healing. "How are you, my son?" she asked, voice trembling yet earnest. Kamil's fingers lifted tentatively, reaching to touch the familiar rough fabric of the scarf, a subtle way of connecting beyond words. "I am learning," he said softly, "about the world without sight." Ronia stepped forward, her eyes steady and warm. "He has grown strong, Fatima, not because his eyes see the world, but because his heart and mind reach beyond." Fatima swallowed hard, struggling to meet the courage in her son's voice. "I left you out of fear and shame, but I have never stopped thinking of you, praying for you." Kamil reached out then, his hand finding Hayes, surprising her with a quiet strength. "I have lived with love even in your absence, but now I want to know you truly." The crowd around them hushed, some eyes moist, others uncertain, as the mother and son began the delicate dance of rediscovery. In a community shaped by tradition, suspicion, and faith, this moment was a fragile hope blooming amid the dust and heat. Fatima's heart ached with the knowledge that the past could not be undone, but the future, intertwined with Ronia's steadfast care and Kamil's resilience, offered a chance to weave a new story. As the market came alive, the sounds of bargaining merchants and playful children filled the air, underscoring the indomitable spirit that endured beyond loss and regret. Chapter 4: Bridges of Forgiveness. The afternoon sun cast long shadows over the winding alleys of Al-Hajjah, smuggling in a fragile quiet that fell between the hum of the bustling market. The scent of roasted lamb mingled with fragrances of jasmine and oud drifting from nearby homes. Children chased invisible stories behind weathered stone walls, their laughter weaving seamlessly into the fabric of daily life. Inside Ronia's modest stall, now more a home than a workspace, the soft murmur of voices resonated with the weight of years untold. Fatima sat cross-legged on the floor, her fingers nervously twisting a threadbare cloth, her hands betraying the storm of emotions inside her. Kamil, now near 10 years old, sat opposite her, his posture steady and calm. Though his eyes were clouded, his connection to the world pulsed fiercely through his other senses and the radiant warmth of his spirit. "Mother," Kamil began gently, sensing the hesitation lingering in the air, "I have wanted to ask, why did you leave me?" The question hung between them, its delicate weight pressing upon Fatima's heart. She lowered her gaze, swallowing the lump that rose in her throat. "I was afraid," she admitted finally, voice barely more than a whisper. "Afraid of the whispers, the pity, and the uncertainty. I did not know how to protect you or myself." Ronia watched silently, her eyes clouded by unshed tears but steadfast in her support. Kamil reached out and took Fatima's hand, his touch firm despite the years apart. "Fear is a heavy burden," he said softly, "but love is stronger." Fatima's breath hitched as the walls she had built began to crumble. She remembered the cold nights alone, the nights when her heart ached so deeply it felt as if it might shatter, and the enduring hope that somewhere, somehow, her son had found light. "You have grown so brave," Fatima told him, her voice cracking. "Not because I was strong, but because of the goodness others showed you, and because of the magnificent person you are." Kamil smiled, the warmth shining through his voice even without sight. "Ronia taught me to listen with my heart, to trust the kindness hidden within this community." Outside the store, the marketplace had begun to settle for the evening, its chaos softening into calm. A few familiar faces lingered nearby, neighbors and vendors, each watching quietly, some with surprise, others with a hesitant hope. Old Nazir approached slowly, his voice gravelly but gentle. "It's not easy to rebuild bridges, but this, perhaps, is a beginning." Fatima nodded, eyes glistening with tears. "I want to be part of that rebuilding, for him and for myself." Ronia rose and prepared fresh bread, breaking it to share with all present, an unspoken offering of inclusion and healing. As the golden hues of sunset wrapped the market in a tender embrace, mother and son began stitching the first threads of a new bond, one guarded by forgiveness, nurtured by community, and illuminated by the enduring power of love. Chapter 5: Seeds of Belonging. The dawn broke with the scent of freshly ground coffee and the gentle rustle of palm fronds swaying in the morning breeze. Al-Hajjah stirred back to life, a city where the past intertwined with the present in every cracked wall and every call to prayer. The market's heartbeat resumed, vibrant and resilient, as merchants arranged vibrant fruits, woven textiles, and earthenware pots on their tables. Inside Ronia's store, the atmosphere had shifted, no longer just a place of trade. It had become a sanctuary of acceptance and hope. Fatima sat beside Kamil, their hands occasionally touching, a silent thread rekindled between mother and son. For the first time in many years, Fatima felt the warmth of belonging, though the path to full acceptance was still steep. "Today, I want you to come with me," Fatima said softly. Her voice carried a mixture of nervous determination and tender anticipation. Kamil turned his head, recognizing the resolve in her tone. "Where will we go?" "To the children's gathering beneath the old olive tree," she replied. "I want to stand beside you and show the town that I am here now, for you." The market was alive with its usual color and noise, but as they walked, whispers followed. Some regarded Fatima with surprise, others with cautious hope, and a few with thinly veiled skepticism. Yet, a subtle shift had begun. The seeds planted by Ronia's kindness and Kamil's undeniable spirit were beginning to sprout. At the olive grove, a circle of children played, their laughter ringing clear in the morning sun. Fatima watched as Kamil joined cautiously, guided by Ronia's encouraging words and the gentle hands of the other children. Though he could not see their faces, he understood friendship through voice, touch, and shared joy. Layla, the young mother from the market, approached Fatima, her eyes reflecting a newfound respect. "You are brave to step forward," she said. Fatima nodded, tears catching the light. "I am learning to be. For him. For us." As Kamil's laughter mingled with the children's, an elderly storyteller arrived, his deep voice weaving tales of courage and the power of the human spirit. The children listened, enraptured, and Kamil felt the heartbeat of a community weaving ever closer. Later, beneath the twilight sky, Fatima and Ronia spoke quietly as the market emptied. "You have helped us build something beautiful," Fatima said, her gratitude woven through her words. Ronia smiled, worn hands resting gently on Kamil's head. "Love can change even the hardest soil." Fatima took a slow, deep breath, letting the moment settle in her bones. "There is so much I want to make right," she whispered, "but I know it will take time." "And every day is a new chance," Ronia replied. "Together." The night settled over Al-Hajjah like a soft blessing, a promise held between mother and son, and a community slowly opening its heart. Chapter 6. The Light Within. The early morning mist hung faintly over Al-Hajjah, cloaking the town's winding streets and bustling market stalls in a soft, ethereal veil. The sun's slow climb promised a day ripe with possibility, and beneath this gentle dawn, lives were quietly shifting, reshaped by courage and forgiveness. Inside the humble home that had become a sanctuary for Kamil and Ronia, Fatima sat cross-legged on the floor, her fingers tracing the delicate embroidery of a small handcrafted pouch. Her eyes, once clouded by regret, now shimmered with a tentative hope. Days spent in reflection and renewed purpose had begun to soften the years of pain and shame. "You have come so far," Ronia said softly, the warmth in her voice carrying the weight of shared history. Fatima smiled faintly, her gaze drifting toward Kamil, who sat nearby tapping rhythmically on an oud, a simple instrument whose notes carried the melody of his soul. Though his fingers could not see the strings beneath them, each sound was a testament to the resilience burning within. "I want to do more," Fatima confessed. "Not just for Kamil, but for others like him, for all the children hidden from sight, whose voices are too often silenced." Ronia nodded approvingly. "The market sees you differently now. You are not just his mother. You have become a beacon of change, a voice for those who cannot speak for themselves." Outside, the market thrummed with life. Familiar faces greeted Fatima with warm smiles and respectful nods, a subtle but profound shift from the whispered judgments that once shadowed her steps. Kamil moved confidently between stalls, touching the smooth surfaces of pottery, the rough textures of textiles, and the aromatic herbs that lined the vendors' tables. His laughter, unbound and genuine, was a song carried through the crowded alleys. A group of children gathered beneath the fig tree, eager for Kamil's stories, tales he crafted from the sounds and sensations of his world, weaving pictures with words and imagination. Their eyes sparkled with wonder, their hands reaching out to connect with a boy who had transformed his perceived disability into a source of strength. Fatima watched from afar, tears brimming as she saw the son she once believed lost now thriving and cherished. She approached, her footsteps slow but steady, and knelt beside him. "Tell me," she whispered, "what do you see when you close your eyes?" Kamil's smile deepened, fingers brushing haze with affection. "I see light, not with my eyes, but with my heart. A light that guides me, that connects me to you, and to everyone who loves me." Fatima's breath caught, a fragile hope kindled anew in the shared space between them. That evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting violet hues across the sky, a community gathering took place beneath the ancient olive tree. Tales were shared, songs hummed, prayers offered. Fatima spoke gently to the crowd, her voice carrying the strength of one who had faced despair and found the courage to rise. She called for compassion, understanding, and a commitment to care for all children, regardless of the challenges they faced. Her words stirred hearts, planting seeds of empathy and hope deeply within the fabric of Al-Hajjah. As night cloaked the town, Kamil, and Fatima stood side by side beneath a tapestry of stars, silent witnesses to a journey wrought with pain, love, and the enduring power of forgiveness. The impossible had begun to bloom, from abandonment to belonging, from silence to song, from darkness into light. Chapter 7. A New Dawn. The first light of dawn crept softly over Al-Hajj's ancient rooftops, casting a gentle glow on the winding streets where shadows and memory mingled. The market, already stirring with life, bore witness to a town subtly renewed, its heart beating stronger through mercy, understanding, and the courage to change. Fatima stood outside the modest home shared with Kamil and Ronia, the cool morning breeze lifting the edges of her light shawl. Today marked the eve of the annual festival, a celebration of life, resilience, and community blessings, held in the town's central square under stars that had watched the unfolding of endless stories. Her gaze lingered on Kamil, now a tall, confident boy of 12, who was practicing the oud's delicate strings beneath the shade of the fig tree. His dark, blind eyes reflected none of the despair that once haunted their past, but instead shone with quiet strength and a boundless spirit. "Mother," Kamil said, glancing up as he felt her presence, "today's festival, will you come with me?" Fatima's lips curved in a smile, tempered with the softness of motherly pride and the humility of years spent seeking forgiveness. "More than anything," she replied, "today we celebrate not just your journey, but ours, together." The market square was transformed into a tapestry of color and sound by midday. Vibrant banners fluttered in the warm wind, stalls overflowed with sweets, spices, and hand-woven fabrics, and the scent of grilled meats and sweet pastries blended to delight every sense. Neighbors, once cautious, now gathered freely, their faces open to the story of shared hope. The story of a boy who taught them that blindness was no barrier to vision, and a mother who had learned the profound strength of returning, humbly, to love. As music swelled and children danced, Fatima stood beside Kamil and Ronnie near the olive tree, the epic end of so many past moments, pain, kindness, and slowly woven healing. A local elder, Ahmed, took the stage, his voice firm but filled with warmth. "We gather not only to celebrate, but to remember how compassion transforms lives," he intoned. Kamil reminds us that true sight lies beyond the eyes. It dwells in the heart, in our willingness to embrace difference and nurture one another. Applause rippled through the crowd as smiles and tears mingled freely. Kamil stepped forward, fingers poised over the oud strings. His music, a melody both ancient and new, carried a song of healing, his notes weaving through the gathering like a balm for the soul. Fatima listened, tears tracing quiet rivers down her cheeks. In that music, she heard forgiveness, acceptance, and the enduring light of love. Later, as twilight deepened and lanterns flickered warmly, Fatima took Kamil's hand. "I once abandoned you in fear," she whispered, voice trembling but steady. "But today, I know love means coming home." Kamil's fingers squeezed Hayes gently, and home is where love never leaves. Under a vast canopy of stars, the market of Al-Hajj became a place where past wounds could heal, where community learned anew to see with empathy, and where a mother and son forged bonds stronger than absence and time. The dawn had truly come, bringing with it a new day, a new story, and a new hope. Chapter 8. Legacy of Light. The dawn broke gently over Al-Hajj, spilling soft gold across the orchard gardens and winding stone paths where stories had been written in whispers and tears. The town had grown with the seasons, its heart beating with quiet strength and renewed faith in the beauty of acceptance. In a quiet courtyard shaded by blooming jasmine, Fatima sat beside Kamil, now a young teenager of 14, whose presence was a testament to endurance and the miracles born of love. His fingers moved deftly over an oud carved with intricate patterns, symbols of their heritage and the journey they had shared. "Mother," Kamil said softly, his voice steady and filled with a certainty that had grown over years of patient learning and living, "do you see our story the way I do?" Fatima smiled, her eyes moist but radiant. "I see a tale of hardship fueled by courage, of pain transformed by forgiveness, and of a bond that refused to be broken by time or circumstance." A soft breeze carried the scent of spices and earth, mingling with the laughter of children playing nearby. Children who had grown up learning that difference was not weakness, but a source of strength. The market, once a place of whispered judgment, had become a community of embrace. Vendors who had once averted their gazes now greeted Kamil with warmth. Neighbors who had held fast to old stigmas now sought his stories and listened with open hearts. Fatima rose, her soul lighter than it had been in years, and took Kamil's hand firmly. "Tell me your dreams now," she urged. Kamil's eyes, still clouded with a veil of blindness, glimmered as he spoke. "I dream of a school for children like me, where seeing is not only with the eyes but with the spirit, a place where stories are told through touch, sound, and heart." Fatima's smile deepened with pride. "Then we will build it together." Rania approached gently, a basket of warm bread in hand, her smile as steady and kind as ever. "There is strength in community and hope in every shared step," she said simply. The three stood together beneath the ancient fig tree, the silent witness to their beginning, their trials, and now their dreams. As the sun climbed higher, illuminating a new chapter for Al-Hajjah, Fatima knew that while the past held sorrow, it also bore lessons that had reshaped their lives, a legacy not of abandonment, but of unwavering love, courage, and a light that shines brightest when it is nurtured with compassion. "Your journey," Fatima whispered to Kamil, "is our story now, one of healing, hope, and the unbreakable bond of a mother's heart." Kamil's fingers brushed gently over Hayes. "And I will carry it forward, with you beside me." Under the warm sky of Al-Hajjah, a community breathed anew. A mother and son had reclaimed their place, not defined by pain, but by the radiant hope that will forever illuminate their path. This completes the saga of Fatima and Kamil, an enduring story of love, loss, redemption, and the transformative power of community.